Hello and welcome back again. This is Ms. Bushra with you, and we're back again for another lesson in Chapter 2, Section 1 regarding the circulatory system. If you remember, we studied about the vessels last time, and today we're going to study about the subsystems and the patterns of circulations in the body. Since the human body, the blood never leaves the vessels and the heart, we call it a closed system. That's first. Another one, it's called continuous, all right? Because it moves throughout that and comes back to the same place. It's a circulation. That's why it's called one continuous closed system. All right. However, the cardiovascular system furthermore divides to two parts. Pulmonary circulation, remember pulmonary, anything related to lungs is pulmonary. That's why it says the blood travels between the heart and the lungs. This is pulmonary, okay? And then systemic circulation, every other part of the body is part of the systemic circulation. Let's see, what do you mean by that? If I'm drawing a heart with the chambers, remember, this is the left side, this is the right side. Let's not forget about this, okay? And then this side have oxygenated and this side have deoxygenated. But how did we get the oxygenated blood? It's because first when the blood comes back from the body, okay, a blood comes back from the body, goes to the right atrium by vena cava. There are two of them, by the way, but I'm going to draw one. This is body. It's deoxygenated. Then the atria is going to give it to the ventricle, and the ventricle give it to the lungs. Remember, this is through a pulmonary artery, if you remembered. Okay, good. Now it's in the lungs. In the lungs, it gets purified and becomes oxygen rich while losing all the CO2 lungs. And so it's going to be sent back to the left atrium, which is going to give it to the left ventricle, and it's going to be sent to the body through aorta. The one that brought it back was pulmonary vein, by the way. Okay? Do you sense something? It's a double circle. In order for blood from here to come back to the exact same spot, it needs to run through the heart twice. All right? This is why we call double circulation, and this is why we have pulmonary circulation. Let's check this out. And we have the systemic. This is pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation, and this is systemic. Okay, circulation. The loop that is made of pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, lungs and heart, it's called pulmonary circulation. And the loop that is made by aorta, vena cava, and is between heart and the body is the systemic circulation. It's just like that, nothing else. Very easy. So let's see what is the difference exactly between these two. If you check this, we start off with ventricles. When we mention the subsystems, it's always the ventricle first. There you go. And here we started with the right ventricle. We started here, right ventricle. We send it to the lungs. All right, this is where the lungs are located. And this is the vessels in the lung. Once everything, exchange of gases happen, and now we have oxygenated blood because it's blue. We started off with deoxygenated blood. It's going to send it back through four, like I said, 4 pulmonary veins. How many pulmonary artery do we have? We have 1, but it's going to branch off, not 2. Just because it went 2 sides, no. All right? But how many pulmonary vein do we have? 4. We have 4 of them, okay? They bring it back to the left atrium. There you go. This is the whole pathway. And here it's written. See, it says we start off with deoxygenated blood that enters the right atrium and then enters the right ventricle, which is sending it out. That's why we start with this one. And then it goes to the lung, through pulmonary artery, and the capillaries in the lung. Of course, pulmonary artery branches off, becoming pulmonary artery branches, and then arteriole, and then becomes capillary surrounding the alveoli, which we're going to study in the last section. This is where the exchange happen, and then the blood is now full of oxygen and comes back through pulmonary vein and the left atrium. We can just look at this. This is showing the pulmonary circulation, just for your information. Here, on the other hand, the systemic circulation, when the blood from the lungs come back to the left atria, which is giving it to the left ventricle. See, we said we're starting with the ventricle, okay? Left ventricle, gives it to a, pumps it, and it's gonna be taken by aorta to where? All tissues of the body, okay? All the organs and tissues in the body, okay? That's third. It's going to the body. And then once they use everything, by the way, the exchange happens by capillaries, that's why this point is added. But then once everything is used, now we have to send it back to the heart again. Vena cava is going to take this upon itself. And then it's going to take it back to the right atrium, and the whole system starts off again. There we go, 5 for both of them. Okay. See, here we start off with oxygenated blood, end up with deoxygenated blood. It's opposite in pulmonary. Pulmonary, you give it deoxygenated and you end up with having lots of oxygenated blood. It says pulmonary artery is the only artery carries deoxygenated blood. Of course, it's branching to other smaller arteries, but the big artery is what we're talking about, all right? And it says pulmonary system is the opposite of systemic and coronary. We're going to study it in a bit, okay? Blood flow in the pulmonary system, farqihi, okay? There is like a difference between them. I said it in Kurdish. So it says oxygen poor blood flows from the heart, all right? And oxygen rich blood is returned to the heart. That's referring to the pulmonary system. However, in systemic and coronary, it's opposite. We just said it. We said, look, oxygen poor, we mean deoxygenated blood. Oxygen rich, we mean oxygenated blood. Just for your information. This is some comparison between these two systems. That makes it easier for you to answer questions. Because if two things are close, we know that comparison questions are, most likely it's what you're going to face. So remember, in these two, pulmonary and systemic, both heart involved. But in the pulmonary circulation, it's lung with the heart, while in the systemic, the body organs, all of them are included. Here, where it starts is from right ventricle, but here is left ventricle. It ends with left atrium. This one ends with the right atrium. They're quite opposite of each other. If the left ventricle is used here, the right is used there, like that, just like that. Okay? Then involves pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. Of course, pulmonary circulation have its pulmonary vessels. Aorta and vena cava are part of the systemic circulation. How do you end up with the blood? It gets oxygenated. At the end, it gets deoxygenated. All right? This is a little exercise to check whether you know about pulmonary system or systemic. Try to take a screenshot and guess it, and then I'm going to solve it. All right, let's check this out. Here, how do I know which one is which loop? See, this is the left ventricle, and connected to left ventricle, this is the aorta. I'm following it. All right, and then this is the body, organs and cells and everything. When blood comes back to the right atrium, we know that right atrium is also connected to vena cava. This is how I know about it. If you see lungs are here, this is how I decided. I decided lung is here and body is here. All right? And you see that where they're connected to, okay, the vessel connected to which chamber, this is how you know which vessel is this. This is connected to the right ventricle, so it is considered as the pulmonary artery. This one, however, it goes back to the left atrium, so it's pulmonary vein. So if at any point you doubted which vessel is which, remember, what they're connected to, okay, according to the chamber, you would know which one is which. Left ventricle, for example, is always connected to aorta. Left atrium is always connected to the pulmonary vein, and so on for the rest of the system. However, in the systemic, okay, cardiovascular system, pulmonary, and systemic, this is systemic circulation, they're also like smaller systems that are divided on the organs and or like certain systems. For example, coronary circulation is between heart and heart. Okay? It's between heart and heart. Done. That's because the wall of the chambers are so thick that the heart needs extra supply of blood from the outside. That's why you see like some veins and arteries running on the outside surface of the heart as well. Okay? And then hepatic, that's liver with heart. Renal, it's kidney with heart. There's so many of them, but these are the three main ones that the book mentioned. Check this out. Coronary circulation is the subsystem of systemic circulation that supplies blood to heart itself. Like we said, heart to heart, okay? There you go. This is it. Coronary circulation must be here, but it's not shown because it needs to be shown on the outside surface of the heart. Here you will see the liver supposed to be here, and this is the gut from your intestine and these parts. They're a bit connected. They have two different arteries, but the vein here is connected back to the liver. This is the hepatic portal circulation with the guts as well. And then the kidneys are supposed to be here. This is just a diagram they show you simply. This is not reality how it shows. And of course, every time you're ending up in an organ, you have a bunch of capillaries, because in organ, you want to exchange gases and nutrients, and without capillary, that doesn't happen. And then this is for the feet. That is just a simplified version of what is, these subsystems looking like. But the most important part of these is this one. That's why it's called coronary. Coronary, yeah, you heard of this before. Coronavirus. Corona means the crown. And anything related to crown, either the shape resembles it or it's important as a crown. This is important as a crown. That's why it's named like that. So, if heart stops supplying itself, it's going to die. This is how you get heart attack. So, there are multiple methods for that to happen. One of them is atherosclerosis. It's a disease where a lot of fat is going to deposit in the coronary arteries. These are coronary arteries. Coronary veins are present too, but they're not that obvious. So, if the fatty materials, let's see that we're going to cross-section it, and this is the inside of it. If fat is deposited, let's see, here, and made the circulation a bit, how can I say it? When the fat deposit is narrowing down the lumen, and this is affecting the circulation. Sometimes it clogs it, and sometimes it might burst. And cause what? Blood clotting. Might end up with blood clot. Either atherosclerosis end up making blood clot, or a blood clot was formed somewhere else in the body that comes and ends up in these arteries. That's going to block it. It's going to make the artery burst. And if the supply stopped for these cells, the cardiac cells here, it's going to cause what? Death of these cells. And death of these cells is heart attack. Got it? So the death of muscle cells, that means cardiac cells, okay, of the heart, it's because blood flow in the coronary arteries were stopped. Got it? Which supplied the heart, it's gonna stop or cut off or reduced. This is how heart attack happens. Some cells in the heart dies and stop pumping. And this is causing a lot of problem to the person. Even after, going to hospitals, even if the person is recovered, that part that the cells died, they will never recover it again. All right? So what factors contributed to these? See, blood clots, okay, atherosclerosis, and if you remember, we said something else. We said blood pressure also contributes in heart attack. So these three things and some drugs that we're going to talk about it that might cause a lot of blood pressure, like smoking and those, we're going to mention it. These are factors affecting what? A person to increase their chance of having heart attack. And this is very bad, of course. This was it about the cardiovascular system. We're done. We talked about every part of it, the heart and its vessels, the vessels outside of the body, how heart, electricity is generated, the cardiac cycle, and every necessary part in the circulations as well. And we're done with it. And we're at the second part of circulatory system, which is the lymphatic system. Now, the lymphatic system are, a bit special. See, the book did not mention it for, it's not too detailed, but it's enough for you to understand what's happening. If you see some people have surgeries, like for example, their breast is removed, some of the parts of this system is removed and they might have a swollen hand. Let's see why we end up like that. See, the first thing you need to know is that these are all parts of this system. They participate in this system. Whichever name is repeated between two systems like bone marrow or thymus, these are considered as integration of organ or organ system. So the component is the lymph. This is a liquid connective tissue, just like blood, but there's a difference between this and blood. Let's see. See, it says it is a fluid, but it doesn't have any proteins in it. Oh, weird, okay? And it moves into tiny vessels and lymphatic capillaries. So they don't use blood vessels, they have their own vessels. And they have their own type of capillary that are different than the one the blood uses. Okay, so lymph vessels and lymph capillaries are part of this system. But if you notice something, they don't circulate back. See, every time I was drawing for you, like for instance, an artery, there was like a capillary between the artery and the vein. They were continuous, right? Here it's not like that. It has a dead end, like this, let's say, okay? Like that. It has a dead end. It's not a circulation. Then let's see what is this part doing, why it looks like that. See, if we check this, we can easily see that the difference between a capillary of blood that has red blood cells in it and it's continuous with a capillary of a lymphatic system that has these dead ends. It has no red blood cells inside it, all right? And there is no proteins in it. However, they both share the white blood cells, all right? There is lymphocyte inside them. We're going to write these differences later, okay? Let's check this. It says these lymph vessels are running through an organ called lymph node. It's something like that. Do you see these dots? All of them are lymph node, all right? And the vessels are running through them. These are checkpoints. You can write it. Why checkpoints? See, these organs doing something. They filter the lymph. That liquid that's running through these vessels is getting filtered through that. It's like a sieve. Why? Because there might be trapped particles, microorganisms, and debris. I'm coming to this. Let's see, why do we get these stuff? Where does that liquid come from? Okay. Lymph nodes also store lymphocytes. That's a type of white blood cell. Okay. that are specialized to fight diseases. Okay, let's see. See, there is something. When the blood tries to exchange gases and nutrients with the tissue, these are cells of the tissue surrounding them, the liquid is going out, the plasma. Once it's going out, it's no longer called plasma, by the way, it's called tissue fluid. It's gonna exchange the gases and everything needed. However, the blood is a bit fast. So when the liquid tries to go back, not all of it is taken back through the blood system. Some of them remain, and some of them are taken up by the tissue cells. They use it because it's their source of water. All right? However, if that happens every day, a couple hundred times, that means this little amount is going to pile up and make your tissue swollen, full of water. And the blood is going to lose its volume. So we need to take these liquids with a drainage system back to the blood so that blood volume stays the same and the tissues don't get swollen. Who's going to do that? The lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system job is just to take the excess tissue fluid that was left by the blood, all right? And it's going to take it back up until it reaches the upper vena cava, and all of them are going to dump it in the upper vena cava. Here it is, the superior vena cava, and this is how they join back into the blood system. And the volume of the blood is maintained at the same time the tissues don't get swollen. If you remember, I said two things. One of them was that they are filtering particles. That's because between the tissues, if there's any cut, any problem, it's more likely that there will be debris and microorganism. In order to prevent the blood to be contaminated, these filtration systems of nodes are going to make sure that everything is going to get checked before it gets back to the blood. And another thing, if you remember the example of the breast cancer I gave you, I said when they get surgery and they remove a breast, some of these nodes are going to be taken in the arm. That's why you cannot inject them on this arm, because the drainage system is not working the same. So we try to prevent the arm that the lymph nodes are removed. That's how important they are. So if somebody asks you, so what is exactly the function of this system? You're going to say returns fluid and collect them back to the blood so that blood doesn't lose its volume. And of course, it's part of the immune function system. Anything there, any microorganism is going to be killed with these checkpoints. All right? This is it about the lymph system. It's very important and, so much related to the cardiovascular system. And with that, we're done with this section. You can write down some notes here. And I could write you a table. Remember, I promised you with that. We said the blood, especially plasma, is different than the lymph, okay, in terms of what? Protein is present here, not present here. Basha. Red blood cells is present here, not present here. White blood cells, it's present in both of them. So this is considered as similarity. These two are considered as the differences between them. So we're done with section 1 of chapter 2. Congratulations if you made it this far. And please draw this. Please take notes with me. You're going to benefit from it. And if you still want to get this version of the booklet, you can have it as Zhyar photocopy. Let's see. Let's have an opening for the new section that we're going to study, which is about blood. See, I always tell you that the most important part of this system is the blood itself. That's why there's a whole section about blood. The heart and the whole vessels are in service of blood. Their job is to take the blood everywhere that is needed. So we need to know a lot about this. Let's check. The first thing, it says blood is a liquid connective tissue. And a healthy person have about 4 to 5 liters of the blood. Blood is composed of three parts. Okay, the liquid part called plasma, the cells, these are the cells, the blood cells, which is RBC, white blood cells, and platelet. All right, there it is. If you separate blood by a centrifuge, because there is like a device in maybe your school have it, or maybe you went to a laboratory for checking your blood. See, the device is spinning so fast that it separates the liquid from the cells, and it separates like that. A healthy person, plasma content, the liquid part, is about 55% all the time, and the other 45% is all the remaining cells. It's always like that. So the function of the blood is the same function of cardiovascular system and same function of circulatory in general. It's just like saying school is for studying, class is for studying, and students are studying. It's the same, see? The main part of it is the blood. That's why the system is taking the same function. It's transport nutrients and oxygen. It's carry carbon dioxide and other waste material away from the cells. We talked about that. Blood also transfers heat. Please don't forget about that. Let me give you two examples. See, when you feel hot and you're, you were under the sun for quite a long time, you see your cheeks getting flushed. That's because the circulation of the blood, the vessels get dilated and it becomes more so that it loses heat. That's why the cheeks are getting pink, all right? This is how you know that it controls the heat of the body. It plays a major role of defending the body. Of course, there's a whole system named immune system that we're going to study in the next chapter that is, within the blood. Almost all of it is within the blood. So like we said, blood is 45% the cells, 55% is the liquid. What are the cells? These three. Then the plasma, which is the liquid part, if let's say 55% of a general blood, but if you separate it and it becomes 100%, among the 100% plasma, you will see that 90% is water and only 10% is other substances. And what are these substances? So we're done with section 1 of chapter 2. Congratulations if you made it this far. And please draw this. Please take notes with me. You're going to benefit from it. And if you still want to get this version of the booklet, you can have it as Zhyar photocopy. Let's see. Let's have an opening for the new section that we're going to study, which is about blood. See, I always tell you that the most important part of this system is the blood itself. That's why there's a whole section about blood. The heart and the whole vessels are in service of blood. Their job is to take the blood everywhere that is needed. So we need to know a lot about this. Let's check. The first thing, it says blood is a liquid connective tissue. And a healthy person have about 4 to 5 liters of the blood. Blood is composed of three parts. Okay, the liquid part called plasma, the cells, these are the cells, the blood cells, which is RBC, white blood cells, and platelet. All right, there it is. If you separate blood by a centrifuge, because there is like a device in maybe your school have it, or maybe you went to a laboratory for checking your blood. See, the device is spinning so fast that it separates the liquid from the cells, and it separates like that. A healthy person, plasma content, the liquid part, is about 55% all the time, and the other 45% is all the remaining cells. It's always like that. So the function of the blood is the same function of cardiovascular system and same function of circulatory in general. It's just like saying school is for studying, class is for studying, and students are studying. It's the same, see? The main part of it is the blood. That's why the system is taking the same function. It's transport nutrients and oxygen. It's carry carbon dioxide and other waste material away from the cells. We talked about that. Blood also transfers heat. Please don't forget about that. Let me give you two examples. See, when you feel hot and you're, you were under the sun for quite a long time, you see your cheeks getting flushed. That's because the circulation of the blood, the vessels get dilated and it becomes more so that it loses heat. That's why the cheeks are getting pink, all right? This is how you know that it controls the heat of the body. It plays a major role of defending the body. Of course, there's a whole system named immune system that we're going to study in the next chapter that is, within the blood. Almost all of it is within the blood. So like we said, blood is 45% the cells, 55% is the liquid. What are the cells? These three. Then the plasma, which is the liquid part, if let's say 55% of a general blood, but if you separate it and it becomes 100%, among the 100% plasma, you will see that 90% is water and only 10% is other substances. And what are these substances? See, the substances are everything that other cells needed or don't need it, because the blood is like a transport system, like a service, like your delivery with the application that you're using it. Blood is like that for the whole body. So metabolites are any byproducts of any reaction. Salts are, of course, in your food. Any ions in the blood is salt. Nutrients like amino acid, glucose, we know about those. And then you have proteins. Proteins, there are some proteins that are specific for the blood, and we call them plasma protein, albumin, fibrin, antibodies that we're going to study about them. Any vitamin, minerals, of course, considered as nutrients. Waste like CO2, waste like urea, anything considered waste. And hormones. We're going to study hormones in chapter 5, and you will see that hormones, the way that they travel mostly is through blood, and they're known for that. So if they say where the cells get nourishment, of course, from digestive system, and then it's going to be absorbed into the blood takes it where it's wanted. And same goes for the waste products. In the protein case, there are these three proteins. A protein that is essential for blood clotting, that's the fibrin. That was written up, but I did not write it here. And albumin. Albumin is very important for osmotic regulation. If you remember it from grade 11, we studied about osmosis. And if osmosis messed up in the body and it's not isotonic, then it will harm the person. So one of the most important proteins in the body is albumin, that makes sure that the body doesn't have any problem with its osmosis. Antibody, we're going to specifically talk about this in this section and in chapter 3. They are for fighting diseases and anything that is foreign from the body. Every single antibody, even in this section, are made by white blood cells. Which white blood cell? Because there are types, the lymphocytes. Okay. Then we talked about the plasma. What we're going to talk about it now is the difference between the cells. See, we have red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelet. Their structure is different. What is inside them is different. With their sizes, their numbers, everything. Okay? So let's see how do they look. The first thing you should know that RBCs are disc-shaped. Okay? Disc-shaped, it means like they're flat. And concave on both sides. That means like they're compressed in the middle. So you will see them like a dumbbell. Like this. That's on the side. In the front, they're a bit like that. I make this C to show that the inner part is like a, not like a donut hole, but it's like very, very thin. The sides are thicker. All right, this white blood cell shape changes. See, mostly they can squeeze through places. So they can get flatter like that to make sure that they can go through it. They change their shape. We studied this in grade 10 if you remember it. And these are fragments. See, there is a cell in the bone marrow because all of them are made in the bone marrow. This cell, every time a piece of it is going to be cut, and that piece, it becomes a platelet like that. They're very tiny structures. See, since this is like just a fragment, not a complete cell, this doesn't have any organelle, no nucleus. the white blood cells have nucleus, and it's mostly known for its dark colored purple colors in the the pictures that are taken from the microscope if it's colored. Okay, they have nucleus, and the nucleus what makes them double in number during infection, because having a nucleus is what makes a cell being able to divide and increase in number. That means doesn't increase in number when they are like small fragments. There is another one. Red blood cells, they on purpose destroy their nucleus so that there will be more space for carrying oxygen. So they don't have these organelles or nucleus. When we're like looking at it, their structure, there's no similarity. But between the RBC and the platelets, they are similar in not having nucleus and organelles. In their types, the only one that has multiple types is the white blood cells. This has two types, lymphocytes and phagocytes. The phagocytes, the one that are eating the bacteria or any pathogens directly, while the lymphocytes, they don't eat them. They're creating weapons called antibodies, which we previously mentioned. See, here there is size, number, and lifespan, and we need to know which one is the biggest and which one is the smallest and which one lays between them. The largest one is the white blood cells, and the smallest one is the platelets. However, according to the number, this is highest or most abundant. It's written here, highest in number. And at the same time, this is lowest in number, the white blood cells. Platelet is about 500,000 per millimeter cube. Compared to both of them is like in the middle. The only thing that is similarity between all three is that let's not cross it. Let's make an equal sign showing that this is similarity. They are all formed where? Each one of them form in the red marrow, and same here. Bone marrow, that means the red one, by the way, okay? So their lifespan, however, is different. The red blood cells are replenished every 3 months, 4 months, like that. So they are living about 120 to 130 days. However, the white blood cells are living longest lifespan. On contrary, this doesn't apply on the platelets. Every few days, like about a week to 2 weeks to 12 days, they are gonna die, and we need to bring more of them. They're the shortest lifespan. Okay, what was their function? The red blood cells exclusively or most important function, and what is designed for, is to transport oxygen to the whole body. And that's why it has a certain type of protein called hemoglobin. Anytime you hear hem, that means blood. Hemoglobin, that's because it looks globular shape, okay? It has like a shape like that with 4 areas. Each area has an iron molecule, okay? And each iron molecule, when they get oxidized, that can carry 1 oxygen molecule, like this. So 1 hemoglobin can carry about 4 molecules of oxygen. Don't forget about that. What about the RBC? Remember, RBCs are for defending the body against disease. They are your police. They are the army of your body. And that's why they're given permission to squeeze through openings. They can like create weapons like antibodies, and they're destroying microbes because of that. That ability to change shape helps them a lot to go through any, opening or cracks that are present. Platelets are very, very important for blood clotting. See, if blood is so important, what if the blood vessel, got injured and the blood starts spilling out? What stops it? When you're like having an injury here, when you have a cut at your finger, what makes it stop after a while? That's because of platelets. And we're going to study them in detail. How do they do that? So what do? When there's a tear or rip in the blood vessels, they are going to congregate. That means they are going to like pile up on each other, and they're like going to that area, making sure that it's getting closed for a temporary time until the tissue comes back together. And this is called the process of blood clotting that we're going to study later. This is enough for today. There are some other information that we're going to learn for next lesson. Try to write every note, try to revise every day. Daily studying is the best thing that you could do for yourself. So see you for the next video. Have a nice day.